listen, I've made this basically same video every year for the past like 6 years. 2K loses the rights to players every single year, and then it has players that they've never been able to acquire since the dawn of time that I want to cover in today's video. The top 10 greatest players of all time in NBA history that are not in NBA 2K23. Sure, there's some players I'm going to miss in this list. There's a couple players that were borderline, but like in the top 10, we're talking about greatness in like an NBA player's career. These are the 10. Yes, some of these players are back in the 60s and 70s. At the end of the day, they're great players on the 75 all-time team. Like, you can't not have them in 2K. Let's talk about all of them. If you like this kind of content, please join the pack and subscribe. Let's get it, man. First one is someone that I think we can all agree here, Rasheed Wallace. Rasheed Wallace is, first of all, one of the most popular power forwards of all time. Some players consider him one of the greatest power forwards of all time. He was good in his prime with the Trailblazers. He was an 88 overall, according to the 2K metric system. He had multiple seasons averaging around like, 19, 18 points per game on high rebound games. A stretch big. He was like one of the first power forwards to be shooting threes like that and being a great defender for a long time. Not only was he on the all-time Blazers, but he's expected also to be on the all-time Pistons, probably in the back at like an 86 overall. He was on the Pistons team that won an NBA championship. That team had no superstar, but they had a lot of great players, and he was one of those great players. Rasheed Wallace is a menace. He was a 4-time All-Star, an NBA champion, one of the greatest Blazers, and one of the greatest Pistons of all time on a championship team. What more can you want from an all-time player? He absolutely deserves to be on this list, and it's a shame that he's not in 2K in the first place. We're going to stay on the Trailblazers at number 9. It's someone that's very annoying for me, Brandon Roy, because Brandon Roy has been in NBA 2K21, and then they lost the rights to him again. So like they lost the rights to him, they got the rights back to him, and then they lost the rights to him again. It is so annoying. He would be around an 89, maybe even higher when the all-time team Trailblazers. He was a ridiculous player. Listen, man, he had like 5 NBA seasons before he got seriously injured, right? So in his 5 NBA seasons before he got injured, he was an all-star 3 times, right? That's how good he was. One of the greatest Blazers of all time that injuries took from us. He was so damn good, so versatile. He made the Blazers terrifying, and when he was on a good team, they had a really good roster because it was like really good record because it was him, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Lamar Odom all on the team at the same time. They had like a crazy good record together. It's a shame that injuries affected this team so much, and that Brandon Roy, we never really got to see him in his prime play the way that we knew he was probably going to be able to play. It's a shame he was taken early injury-wise, but still, it'd be so fun to use him again when he was on 2K before. In 2K21, I believe he was still super fun to use. It's annoying that they lost the rights to him again. Some of these players I mentioned, y'all are gonna have to hold on and listen to me because y'all might not agree, but at number 8, Alvin Robertson 100% deserves to be in NBA 2K. 90 overall, a player for the 70s and 80s, was one of the first players ever to get a quadruple double, right? He was a 4-time All-Star. He's a Defensive Player of the Year. He's a 3-time Steals champion. He's one of the greatest rippers of all time, right? He's one of the greatest Spurs players of all time. In fact, I have him as the 7th greatest Spur ever, right? He's great. He's a great player. He's super fun defensively. At the same time, could finish under the basket really, really well. He was a slasher. Like, why would you not want a player like this in the game? This guy has a lot of history in basketball. I mean, again, one of the greatest defenders of all time. He didn't make the 75th anniversary team, but he was pretty damn close to making it. A really fun player. I think, I created him here in my personal roster that I've made already, which you can check the video out. I think I did my best to make it look like Alvin Robertson, and I think I do a pretty good job, or Robertson. But still, creating a player can only do so much. We actually want to use a real player in 2K. That would be clutch because he deserves to be in it. Again, another player you're going to have to hold on for a second and listen. Roger Brown on the Indiana Pacers all-time team. So Roger Brown is a Hall of Famer. First off, right? 4-time All-Star, 3-time ABA champion. Now I know that the ABA championships aren't as exciting as like an NBA champ, but Think of it this way. An ABA champ is like a player that made it to the finals, right? Like a team that made it to the finals. That's how, I mean, he made it to the finals 3 times and maybe would have won it 3 times. That's how good he was, okay? He was the second option on these championship teams right behind Mel Daniels, right? This dude was averaging hella points. He is one of the greatest Indiana Pacers player of all time, consistently great for a super long time. To not have his real player in 2K, it's a shame to history. The Indiana Pacers are probably one of the most disrespected teams in 2K history because they just got a Mel Daniels. They don't have another player that we're going to talk about later that they're missing. Super important. Roger Brown was super important. They didn't have Jordan McGinnis's face scan right until just this week. Billy Knight's another player. Freddie Lewis. There's multiple players on the team all time that aren't on 2K, and they deserve to be in it. So this one for sure, at number 6, Lenny Wilkins. Lenny Wilkins is funny because he is in 2K, but he's in the 60s best all-time team, but he's not in the all-time teams of the Thunder and the Hawks. Like, what? Lenny Wilkins is a Hall of Famer, a 9-time All-Star on the 75th anniversary team, and he is one of the assist champions. Listen, bro, he's one of the greatest Supersonics and I guess Thunder players of all time. He's a 91 overall projected in 2K, which is just insane that a 91 overall player isn't in 2K. They already have his face scan, even though it's pretty suspect. He would also be on the all-time Atlanta Hawks, but he would probably be a little lower here, where he was an 87 overall. I mean, he played for a long time, but he wasn't as good as he was with the Thunder, right? Or I guess the Supersonics. But he was still great. I mean, multiple seasons of being one of the best players in the NBA. I can't believe a player of this like magnitude, stature, greatness isn't on. I think every single 75th anniversary player needs to be in 2K. Up next, at number 5, we have WaltBalami, another player that 2K used to have the rights to and then lost those rights. I've projected about a 92 overall. He is a Hall of Famer, a 4-time All-Star, one of the greatest Wizards of all time, who could also be one of the greatest Knicks of all time. You could borderline put him on that team. An amazing player. He's the 4th greatest Wizards/Bullets player of all time, right? He was on the NBA multiple seasons, averaging hella points and hella rebounds. You can't not have this player here. And an extreme defender. It's crazy. It's crazy. But I think the Wizards are another team that is super disrespected with, like, Hayes, Wes Unseld, Gilbert Arenas. The thing is, this team used to be the Bullets, and the Bullets, they won an NBA championship, and they went to another finals after that. Like, this is a team that has a lot of history, and those players sometimes are forgotten, like WaltBalami and I guess Gus Johnson as well. Now, a player I'm going to be honest with you guys, I had never heard of until this past month is Connie Hawkins. Maybe I'm a casual. I didn't know much about the Suns' history. I did not know Connie Hawkins was this good. He is an MVP of the NBA. Immediately should be in 2K. Hall of Famer, 5-time All-Star, an ABA champion who led the Suns to an ABA championship. He's one of the greatest Suns of all time, tied as the 3rd greatest Sun ever. Okay, this dude absolutely deserves to be in 2K. Now, I didn't have the face scan of him, so I had to get like Walt Frazier's face scan and put it on Connie Hawkins because it was pretty close. But this is one of the greatest players of all time, like just straight up. The fact that he's not on the 75th anniversary team is kind of weird because he probably should have been. He's a great NBA player / ABA player. He needs to be here, putting up hella numbers for a long time in his career. I know it's not a player that you've ever really heard about or cared for, but in terms of stats and greatness, he has to be here. Now, I would like to call these next players the big 3. These are the players that we've been kind of preaching for a while. At number 3, Marc Gasol. This is an obvious one. He's the greatest Grizzly of all time. He's a Defense Player of the Year, an NBA champion with the Toronto Raptors, 3-time All-Star. You cannot have the greatest player on an all-time team not be on the all-time team. I created him here in 2K, and I know I did a pretty good job. I'll be honest. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but like, look at that. That looks just like him. But I would like actual Marc Gasol in the game, not a fake one. We need him. He led the team to conference finals. He made an NBA championship with the Raptors as an important player. Like, this is a great player who has a lot of history in 2K. To not have him, especially in the modern era, which is even more important, to not have him, not have the rights to Marc Gasol is insane to me. And this Grizzlies team is like, what's the point of even having it if you don't have Marc Gasol on it? Like, just flat out. I'm sure you already noticed this player. At number 2, Reggie Miller. Reggie Miller has been one of the players we've been preaching for years and years and years and years. Reggie Miller, 94 overall, the greatest Indiana Pacer of all time. He's a Hall of Famer on the 75th anniversary team, 5 All-Star appearances. He's made an NBA Finals. He's a great NBA player. He really defined what it meant for taller players to shoot threes and create their own shots, and like he did that for years, right? He was the first look at the modern NBA really for shooting guards. He's amazing. He's amazing. He'd be so fun to use on the Pacers. This Pacers roster without Reggie Miller, there's no point in even using them. Like, I'm sorry, but he is one of the most influential players ever. To not have him, and imagine Reggie Miller in 2K doing the little choke animation. Like, nah, bro, he has to be in the game. He has to. I need him in the game. I need the teams he was on, the teams against the Knicks. I need the teams that went to the NBA Finals, the Jalen Rose. There's so many teams that are important in NBA history that Reggie Miller was on that aren't in 2K. That is just insane. It's insane. He's one of the most iconic players ever. To not have him is insanity. All right, finally at number 1, it is Sir Charles Barkley, 95 overall player, an MVP of the NBA, a Hall of Famer, 11 All-Star appearances, and a Finals appearance, and is on the 75th anniversary team. Everything you could ever consider adding a player to 2K, Charles Barkley fits the list. But this isn't necessarily 2K's fault. Charles Barkley has demanded 2K, if they want to add him onto the game, that they would need a lot of things like money and charity. You guys keep for a lot from 2K, and so the realistic thing is that they'll never ever add him onto the game. But I did make him here in 2K, and I do think I did a pretty good job. You know, he'd be a 95 overall in the Suns. I'd even argue the greatest Sun of all time over Steve Nash. He's also on the 76ers all-time team as a 92 overall. He had multiple seasons, you know, putting up video game numbers on the 76ers. Look, this is maybe the best or one of the best power forwards ever. If you don't have him in 2K, I don't know what 2K is doing. It's crazy. That's an immediate one. Like if I was in 2K and I was like thinking about what to do, Charles Barkley would be the first person we're trying to get into 2K. But it is what it is. They don't want to add him because it's too much of a hassle. It's a damn shame. A lot of all-time teams and, you know, great NBA teams feel empty without him. But that is my list. I'm sure I've missed people, so I want you to let me know in the comments who I missed. And if you like this channel, please give it a sub. I'll see you guys next time.